Alright, hell yeah, it's a nice winter day in Helena, Montana. And one of the commenters is like, hey, can you give us your bio? Kind of motivation for, you know what I mean? Just kind of like your life story and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's some definite hardships, there's some definite limitations, but let's stay on the productive side of things. And I got my education. I got a civil engineering degree, so I went to college right after high school, did 4 years. And afterwards, I got diagnosed with bipolar, so and I've had that for 15 years. And it's a real hiccup. It's caused my sleep schedule to be very difficult. And so with that, I've only taken on simpler jobs. And even going to a job, you know, the same job 8 hours a day, even if it is simpler, what I would run into is periods where I wouldn't be able to sleep, and that would really adversely affect my mental health. Where seasonal work was useful because I could have something to look forward to where I was able to kind of take a break. But now I don't know, it's like I haven't gotten back into the real world work scene, so I've just worked for myself. And over the last, I would say 5 to 6 years, I have mowed lawns, I have shoveled snow, I worked on some property at a cabin doing some landscaping. And that's pretty cool from the engineering perspective of like, hell yeah, pick up a chainsaw. Like what you're doing is physics and action. So anything that's kind of physics and action definitely what it takes is like skill. You know, it takes hand-eye coordination, where you know the physics behind things, but if you don't already have that, you know, those skills drilled in, is like, yeah, you can be pretty bad at stuff right off the bat. But even with that knowledge of the physics of things, like even with the chainsaw, you can see that some maneuvers with the chainsaw are more drastic and deadly than others, you know what I mean? And so you can kind of, from even that perspective, maybe have an equation-based way of analyzing a chainsaw to be like, nah, this is going to be the safest way to use the tool. But anyway, so yeah, so that's kind of the cool thing about having mental illness, is I really got to switch sides from kind of bookish work and get in. And that was my introduction into the work world, because prior to going through college, I was able to get a summer job working for the highway department, doing a very easy task. And I worked by myself, worked alone. And that's kind of important, because that idea of working by myself and working alone has been the best. Like, I don't work with other people very well. None of my family, if they say that, oh yeah, we work good with people, hell no. We were the opposite. We do not work good with other people. And so I always thought I did. You know what I mean? You get that interview statement, like, hey, do you work good with other people? I'd be like, oh, yeah, I do. You know what I mean? And no, it's like, absolutely not. So that's the other thing in life that I have developed a funny bone, because just honesty. Holy Toledo. If you could say that in interviews, like, no, I really don't work with other people. We should probably talk about this, you know what I mean, for the rest of the interview, because this might be your deal breaker. But hell yeah, you know what I mean, just that levity, that honesty, that has really gotten me a long way in life, especially having the hardships of mental illness. Because it's stating the obvious. Like, if you're bad at something, like, should you be told you're bad at it? Like, only if that's going to help you, you know what I mean? But if you're bad at it and you still want to do it, well, I guess such is life. You know what I mean? But hell yes, that's kind of the, like, what I work with. And yeah, so I don't know. Like, if I had my way, like currently right now, I want to, you know, like, the whole motivation of doing videos is because I can do engineering work by teaching others. Like, that is, so if you get any degree, it's just like you get a PhD in some sort of like history of literature, you know what I mean, there might not be a job in that, but you can still pass on the torch and teach what you just learned, you know what I mean? So that was the motivation for making videos. I can feel part of the engineering world, But I do have a lot to add to the engineering world, because I got three things. One is I got the the education, the equation based education, good enough. It wasn't Harvard, and I get that. It wasn't Ivy League, and there is a difference. My education was like, hey, these are the equations, these are the unknowns, and then get the answer in the back of the book. That kind of summed it up. So that's one. We do have that. The other element is having the mental illness. I was able to, do, like, I was just like, I couldn't function. So I actually lucked out and found a litter picking job and picked litter on the highway for 3-4 years. And it was just seasonal, but it was almost like an 8-month season, as much as you wanted during that 8th month. And then in the winter, I would work at the ski area. So I was just like, hell yeah, this is the life for me. Now, like most people, like I was right on the average of like getting along with people. It's just like I felt like that was still in the days where it was just like, why wouldn't anyone not get along with me? You know what I mean? But there was one bad apple that really stuck in the dagger, and so you know what I mean? He was like that was crazy. You know what I mean? I thought my life was in danger there for a little bit. But anyway, back to, man. Yeah, if you don't work good with people, hell yeah, a job should accommodate that. It's just like, well, yeah, do your job, but yeah, you don't have to see any people. The whole COVID thing was a miracle I bet you America has been more productive than it's ever been, because people don't have to deal with other people. You know what I mean? And yeah, you should have a list of, like, you go to your job, you should have a list of people that, hell yeah, make your job awesome, and a list of people that make your job completely hell. And treat it like middle school. Middle school is the same way. If you got people that are bullying you, yeah, write that list down and don't have them in your class. Even if it's public knowledge. We're all adults here. But the crazy thing is, like, we are adults, and so we have the worst ways of dealing with that issue of people not getting along. So I don't know. It's just like, I don't know how to join the workforce from that perspective, minus not even having a mental illness. But the second that I have a mental illness is just like, well, who's going to hold my hand in engineering environment? I have no idea. So this video is kind of the call out for that. It's just like, hell, I'm making math videos and physics videos. I feel like I'm part of the engineering community, but there is no way that I could actually get a job in engineering that I could stick with for more than just a little bit. But maybe, I don't know, it's like, if you don't try, like, maybe I am a different person. Like, I have a whole lot more skill set. But sometimes you revert back to that same, like, high level of anxiety just for no apparent reason. Have you ever, like, man, it's so bizarre. It'd be like going to a high school class reunion. You can kind of fit right back into that vibration of, like, ooh, this is, like, I should be beyond this, but I'm not. I just, right back into that mold of maybe high anxiety. So that's the cool thing about mental illness, is I've overcome a lot of that anxiety just from, like, hell yeah, I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do. And so that's kind of fascinating. Alright, so I do leave it out there for myself to be like, hey, do I want to participate more in the engineering world? Is it worth it? And I could just hear people's comments be like, no, man, stay away. This job, engineering work is hell. It's stressful. It doesn't need to be. But that was the bizarre thing. Even working in the easier world that I started to work at, I was never a manager, but I was always an employee that enjoyed my work. And it's just like, I couldn't figure out why other employees, or like, and I did get to train some new employees. And so my method of training is just like, hey, this is why I like this job, and here's the things that I like about it. Sure, you're going to have to do work, but mentally, this is the ways that I, go about the job, where I just feel like, hey, this is the best thing ever. And it's just fascinating that you can teach a job that way. I mean, just any job in general for 8 hours can feel like prison for your first day. You're just like, holy hell. So you might as well make it enjoyable. I've never understood the idea of not making a job enjoyable from that perspective. So that is something that I can just add to a work environment, and even try to do that for myself. But then, I mean, there's always this idea of expectations, where working for myself is like you don't meet a consistent level of expectations. You know what I mean? One day you might be able to get a job done fast, and another day, you know, you might have to use that time for training. So yeah, so any job where I like worked at a bike shop where I was the only bike tech, and it wasn't even a bike shop, it was just an outdoor shop. And I was able to tune a bike. I was able to spend about 3 hours like on one tune, when you're probably supposed to take an hour and a half tops, but I would take double that. And in that process of taking double that time, I was refreshing my education and building a tremendous amount of detailed skill. So that is kind of my motivation to do math and physics videos, because the same is true. Is like in college, you have so many subjects that it's really difficult to focus on any of them in any one subject, you know, in depth. And if the whole idea is to get a number or an answer that matches the answer in the back of the book, well, you're just going to short circuit that process. You know, that's why my education is like, hey, these are the equations, these are the unknowns, and kind of boil down to that. So and so that is my major motivation for going back. One is just like, hey, if you do have to get the answer in the back of the book, I play the game of like, hey, if I'm in prison and I do get the answer right, I get out. If I don't get the answer right, I have to stay in prison for the rest of my life. So then how do you answer that question with 100% confidence? You know what I mean? So that, I guess that just brings up the idea of like maybe finding different ways to explain the same thing and to see if that double checks. But yeah, that really dives into the idea of, even if you do that, even if you solve a problem in a different way, is that a proof? You know what I mean? It can show you two methods that reach the same answer. Like that's useful. But yeah, it's kind of fascinating, the actual identity of it. Like, what is a proof? Typically, for my definition, as a proof is just, you know, maybe showing something from a much simpler perspective, showing that thing is true, but from a simpler perspective, that you have more certainty that that thing is true. If I know this thing is true and it shows that that thing is true, then I think that's the logical, I think that even follows logic. And so that is one of the big motivations about math, is like, well, it's a logical system that explains reality. And so I should be able to go back and use. So that's my motivation right now. Like any problem, like currently, if a problem says, hey, like minimize this vector force so it kind of does this thing, you know what I mean? Or what is the minimum force at what angle that causes, you know, blah. And then so just like, well, let's solve it with a derivative. Even if it's messy as hell, like I should be able to fundamentally do that. So I'm trying to do things that I just won't be able to do in college, because you just don't have the amount of time. And yeah, and so it's interesting diving into this, because I got my motivation for returning to math and physics because it just seemed so damn technical that it seemed like you didn't need it to be that technical. It's like you're getting answers to 3 decimal places, like, and there is a small snippet of a first chapter physics book, the one that I use, that talks about being able to guess an answer to an order of magnitude of 10. And sometimes I do 2 orders of magnitude of 10. If the answer should be 10, well, cool. If I get 1 or 100, anywhere between 1 or 100, that's 2 order of magnitudes of 10. I'm going to be a happy camper. At least I'm in a familiar ballpark. You know what I mean? If you're saying the mass of an atom is 10 to the negative 34, well, cool. Let's say you don't know what the placeholder, you know, is it 6 times 10 to the negative 34? I just looked that one up. It is. But then let's say you divide by 4 pi. You know, that's the uncertainty principle. That's the smallest number, right? Well, you know what I mean? Well, what's 4 pi? That's about 10. So it's cool. It's going to be 10 to the negative 35. I could still care less. But even if I was off by, like, even if I said 10 to the negative 36 or 10 to the negative 32, you know, always do that with numbers, especially exponentials. It's just like, oh yeah, that's like physically I can feel the difference. So if the mass of the Earth is 10 to the 24 kilograms, and who cares about what it is? Is it 2 times 10? Is it 6 times 10 to the 24? I think it's 6. A lot of 6's in there. And so it's 6 times 10 to the 24. Now, does it shock my world if I said the mass of the Earth is 6 times 10 to the 22, being less, or 6 times 10 to the 26? Kind of. Like, I'm imprinting that, sorry about that, I'm imprinting that on my psyche. So that is one element. But that's a lot of paying attention to something where the framework of that is this idea of, like, who the hell cares? So it's you have to spend, like, some person's like, wait, your definition of who the hell cares is approximation? Well, I guess so. You know what I mean? So, but still, it comes from a place of just like getting you're so focused into whatever the hell you're doing that just to open your eyes to, like, the outside world is just really fascinating. And then you get this idea of who cares. Because I remember just engineering, just thinking of, like, well, how the hell would anyone go to a bridge and see if it's gonna function like a bridge should? But then after welding, and it wasn't after the education. After the education, I still couldn't answer that question. It was just very bizarre. I remember graduating and then being on a plane to, on a vacation with my folks, and my dad's like, hey, so yeah, if I put this big heavy ass shelf on my wall, is that gonna do anything to the studs in the wall? And I was just like, I have no freaking clue, because everything's an indeterminate system. It's all just, like, bolted together. And I was just like, no friggin' way. Like, I couldn't answer that question because I couldn't do what I'm doing currently. I couldn't just say, well, what's the friggin' bigger picture? How do you simplify that problem? So hell yeah. So yeah, this is cool. My brother, I bring him up in this because he got a degree at MIT. He got a degree in the States, well, he got like 3 degrees. He got physics, math, and philosophy, 3 majors. And then he went to get a PhD in quantum physics at MIT. He works in Bozeman, Montana with lasers. One of his, and they actually do a manufacturing process, but he does equations. He gets crystals, they manufacture friggin' A lasers, and for very specialized projects with the government. And one was that collaboration with a college, and yeah, went up on the International Space Station. It was a proton laser, but yeah, it was successful. And so he designed one of the components, his company. So that's just really bizarre. I just name dropped that because, like, I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum. It's like I can't even function in society. I can't even make minimum wage. You know what I mean? I am you know what I mean? I am below average when it comes to that, and society has not created a cookie cutter approach for someone that deals with a mental illness that still can be successful. It's just it's very difficult. We're carving our own route. So it's just like, well, F it. I'm gonna carve my own route, and my hierarchy of needs are survival, mental illness, you know what I mean? It's up there with water, breathing, and air, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's just really fascinating. So anyway, so that's my motivation, is just like, I want to be part of the engineering community, and doing all that, like, ski work and tasks with the hand-eye coordination, especially looking at something, that was wild. Like taking a ski tune, for example, and then just looking down at an edge and being like, no, if I get close enough, I can see detail. You know what I mean? I can distinguish something from something else. And that even is useful in the idea of quantum mechanics. It's just like, well, what is something? If something has something is only something in contrast to something else that something would be the other something, you know what I mean? So it brings up the idea of something having a property. And if 2 things have identical properties, well, then there's no distinction between them. You know, that's be the definition of entangled particles. So I get that from the idea of the who cares. Like, that's the crap that you can come up with from a who cares perspective. And so it's really fascinating. Like, I don't know crap about quantum physics. But it is interesting. I am going to try to learn more, but I'm going to do it in my own particular way of kind of looking at the broad brush and how linear algebra. That was my brother. He's like, hey, linear algebra. He got me a linear algebra book. It's the wax on, wax off before you learn quantum physics, because everything, it's a very good tool to show you what's happening. So anyway, but that aside, yes, I was just talking about properties. If something has a distinguished property, you can identify it from something else. All right, so we're gonna wrap this one up, but that is my motivation, just kind of feeling a part of a community. My motivation to do it myself is obvious for many reasons. I do not get along with other people. I don't get it. I don't get walking into a room and and then that's why I was just like, F it. If that's the case, I'm going to I'm gonna kind of look the part. And so I've been lately trying to wear my mental illness on my sleeve. Now, it doesn't mean that I walk into a room and start acting like psychotic or anything. That's not the case. But it's just like, if I'm already predisposed to be, let's say, viewed in a particular way, then let's double down on that. That's my idea of wearing my mental health on my sleeve. Now, when it comes to getting a job, I'm curious. Like, should I just, like, well, no. It would be totally against my nature to be like, F it. I'm going to apply for jobs like I'm like a normal person that doesn't have any handicaps, and then when I can't do the job, just say, hey, just move on and call it. But no, it's like there's got to be a middle ground there to carve that out, to reach out to an employer and be like, hey, these are my limitations. Like, I'm sleeping during the day, I'm up at night. There's got to be some way that I can feel apart. So cool. So that's my motivation to make math videos. It's really easy for me to feel a part of a community. I can do it at my own pace. If I'm up at 3 a.m., hell yeah, we can make a math and physics video. But, the whole motivation for doing these videos was to actually, be able to participate in society and, as the stepping stone to maybe, jumping back in. So, yeah, we'll see what we do. But definitely, if it's going to cause anxiety, hell no. If it's going to be a detriment to my mental health, forget about it. And I don't know how you get around that working with people. Like, if it's already very difficult to work with people, and that's going to cause my mental health to not be in tip-top shape, then why subject yourself to that? There's some things in life that if you're not good at, I don't know, should you work on those? I don't know. That's the question. If you spend all your time working on stuff you're horrible at, that you're not gonna. I remember this, watching people skateboard. It's just like people my age, because I got into skateboarding and I'm fairly talented, but from that perspective of athletics, but man, it's still, I couldn't meet the standards that I wanted to meet with skateboarding. But then seeing others my age doing skateboarding, and you're going to be at that plateaued level for the rest of your life. Watching someone ollie and you're just like, nah, your ollie is never going to improve. Literally, it's literally I don't know, what is that, a logarithmic equation that just ends at a plateau. It's just and so you can just see it. So but that's fine. There's plenty of reasons to do something that you're never going to improve on. But I don't know. Yeah, it's just fascinating in life, those who choose to take something that they know they can't improve very much, but still continue to do that. And then others who hey, no, I'm pretty good at this, let's take that to a higher level. So yeah. I think life is a very good balance of both of those. All right, this video is long enough, but I think it's satisfactory. I think I didn't share too much about the mental health, but hell yeah, being honest about limitations, for sure. I suck at dealing with people. And the framework from that is I got kind of abused in middle school by definitely heavily physically every day, physically No one saw it. You know, it was all internal. I escaped suicide because if suicide was a thing, it just wasn't a thing in the 90s. No one talked about it, so it wasn't an outlet. That would have been my outlet. But hell yeah. No, you know what I mean? And then going through the whole mental health, you know, it's just like, I don't know. I still fit into the category of like, you know, I don't think it should be a crime to commit suicide, but like I always say, like, hey, have a 10-year plan. If you're thinking about committing suicide this year, you know, I even said 10 year. Usually it's just 5 years. You know what I mean? If you haven't, you know, have a 5-year plan at least, and then document your journey from that point. Be like, nah, I think I'm done. Well, 5 years from now, if you think you're going to be done, but after, you know, really documenting that journey, for sure. We should live in that society where that's appropriate. But man, the brain, it's a beast. You know what I mean? So it's just like, are you your brain? Like, is there something external to that? How do you make that decision? Obviously, people make that decision for themselves in the heat of the moment. But hell yeah. So I fit into the camp of just like, well, I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm kind of technically like done. You know what I mean? But yeah, it also makes every day just like a bonus day. It's just like I could really care less. You know what I mean? And so is that an approximation, or is that truly not caring? You know what I mean? This idea of just like, I don't know, I don't care, but as kind of my strength is just like every day is a free day. So let's do it. And like, I don't fit in society either. You know, society hasn't filled this peg. And so I would try to work hard. That's very difficult. Why, how could the person like me that has the handicap be the one to show you? It's a two-way street. Like, I can show you what peg I'm missing. But it doesn't mean that I can make that hole. You know what I mean? Society hopefully can fill that hole. Like, I need a job where I can be handheld. I need people that don't suck, you know what I mean? Or I just need a community that doesn't, you know what I mean? I need a job where there is no people, you know what I mean? So anyway, so I guess everything that I've done myself is a craft of what I need with my handicaps. And yeah, so it was cool. We'll end with this. I just went back. Sometimes it's weird to like go backwards. Like, I think in life it seems like you always got to go forward. So I went back to that outdoor shop, and I asked if I could just tune skis they were really busy. And I just walk in and I was just like, hey, you know, I kind of look like the way I do. That they have definitely a dress policy, and they do want people to look a certain way. But I was just like, hey, I heard that you're just really busy. Do you need anybody, you know, to tune skis? And the guy's like, no. But I think he just said no because he just, you know, I didn't look the part. But what was the part look like? I should look like the part for a ski tuner. But anyway, yeah, so the boss said, nah, we're gonna be fine. But yeah, I was just like, he's like, what do you need? I was just like, well, I need to work for 4 days. I said, that's basically it. I need to work for 4 days and then never work for your company again for the next decade. And I just want to tune skis for 4 days. That's it. Just to feel. And he's just like, why do you want to do that? I was just like, to feel normal, because it sucks. It sucks with a mental illness that you like. Normal is being able to do something on repeat for the rest of your life sometimes. And it's just, I can't do that. I can give you 4 days and that's it. So my mind doesn't explode. And he's like, well, you know what I mean? And I said, you know what? Actually, just even talking this through was very useful. So, I know that you don't need me, but it's just like, I'm going to use this because there is going to be an employer that I talk to where I'm going to state my limitations, what my needs are. And if there's an external benefit to that employer, you know what I mean? Let's make it happen. So anyway, so that's kind of cool. That's why I wanted to make this, because, hey, maybe like my motivation tipping point isn't there yet, but I was just like, it'd be sweet to either you know, feel a part, you know, to do a job for someone, to even volunteer, you know, to do an internship at an engineering firm. I have no idea. But anyway, we're gonna end it with that. That's kind of where I'm at. You know, we'll see where we go in the next year, in the next 10 years. But like all the commenters, they're just like, hell, I hope you never stop making videos. And yeah, there's some deep motivational days just like, what the hell? Like, I'm not improving, it doesn't feel like, but you know, let's keep improving. All right, thanks for joining me, and that's a video.